The casket was barely closed. I stood alone by the pines at Mariner's Bluff Cemetery when my phone buzzed. "Don't panic. I'm not dead. Come to the cemetery now." The sender ID clearly showed Mom, from the phone that went dark at the hospital, while my father, Graham Kincaid, posted vacation photos with his assistant Sierra Knox from Costa Brava. I realized my mother's funeral was just the prelude to an unimaginable twist, to expose the director. I would have to play the good daughter one last time. My name is Sloane Archer. I am 32 years old, and I am the lead architect at Kincaid Urban Works. It is my father's company. Today, I buried my mother, Vivian Archer, or at least, I stood in the rain and watched them lower a sealed mahogany box into the mud of Mariner's Bluff. The cemetery clings to the cliffs overlooking the Atlantic, a grim patch of green fighting the gray Rhode Island stone. The storm that had threatened all morning finally broke just as the pastor began his banal speech about angels. This was not a gentle rain. It was a horizontal assault, a violent, stinging spray driven by a wind that screamed off the water. The halyard on the church flagpole whipped against the metal. A frantic, repetitive clack, clack, clack that sounded like chattering teeth. The heavy ceremonial flags didn't snap. They made a low, groaning creak under the weight of the water, like the rigging of a ship about to capsize. It was a closed casket funeral. That was the detail that snagged in my mind, the one I could not smooth over. The official reason from St. Alaric's Hospital was complications regarding preservation, a sterile, corporate phrase delivered by an administrator who could not meet my eyes. It was done, he'd assured me, to protect our final memory of her, to preserve her dignity. But all it did was rob me of a final look. I had a desperate, primal need to see her face one last time, to verify the peace that the nurses assured me had settled on her. Instead, I was left staring at polished wood and brass handles, feeling a profound, nauseating disconnect. This box had nothing to do with my mother. The few mourners who had braved the weather were already gone, their black umbrellas collapsing in the wind as they scurried back to their heated cars. I remained, the freezing rain soaking through the shoulders of my black wool coat, plastering my hair to my skull. I had seen someone earlier, standing apart from the small cluster of business associates, a woman, half hidden by a dripping yew tree near the iron fence line. She wore dark scrubs visible beneath a heavy rain slicker. The hood pulled so low it shadowed her entire face. She was watching me, not the casket, not the pastor, me. When my gaze locked onto her, she did not look away with the usual shy pity. I saw a flash of something else entirely. It was not sympathy, it was raw, unadulterated fear. The second our eyes met, she flinched, turned, and simply vanished into the deluge. My father, Graham Kincaid, was not there. He was the picture of the grieving husband, devastated by the sudden loss of his wife of 35 years, or so the company memo had stated. 2 hours before the service, my phone had buzzed with his text. "Sloane, terrible timing. Urgent business in Zurich. Investors won't wait. Can't be helped. Represent the family." The lie was so practiced, so effortless, it barely registered as a betrayal anymore. It was just Graham. While I was standing in the mud, listening to a stranger mispronounce my mother's maiden name, I knew exactly where my father was. His executive assistant, Sierra Knox, had posted an Instagram story less than an hour ago. Sierra was a woman half his age, with aggressively white teeth and the ambition of a barracuda. The photo was not of Zurich. It was a close-up of 2 champagne flutes clinking, the blurred background showing a turquoise ocean and a white sand beach. The location tag, Costa Brava, Spain. The caption was simple, "To our new chapter." I looked back at the grave. My new chapter involved a hole in the ground. His involved champagne on a beach. The groundskeeper was already waiting by his backhoe, the engine idling, impatient to cover the box and move on. I finally turned away, the mud sucking at the heels of my boots. I drove home to the sprawling, glass-walled house on the water, the house I'd grown up in, the house I had helped design the new wing for. It was cold, silent. The rain against the skylight sounded like handfuls of gravel being thrown against the glass. I sat in the dark kitchen, the bottle of scotch I'd grabbed sitting unopened on the marble island. I did not cry. I just felt scoured out, hollowed. It was past midnight when my phone vibrated on the countertop, the sudden noise making me jolt. The screen cast a blue, ghostly light across the dark room. It was a text message from Mom. My heart did not just stutter, it seized, a painful, violent clench in my chest. It was impossible. This was her number. This was the phone the hospital had claimed they'd lost during her final moments in the ICU. The phone, they said, had probably been stolen by an orderly while they were attending to her. My fingers were numb. I stared at the 2 lines of text on the lock screen. "Don't panic. I'm not dead. Come to the cemetery now." My mind snapped into architect mode. Logic, foundation, structure. Fact 1. My mother was dead. I had a death certificate signed by a doctor. I had a burial permit. I had a grave. Fact 2. This was a prank, a grotesque, unbelievably cruel prank played by some disgruntled former employee, or perhaps by Sierra herself, twisting the knife from across the ocean. Fact 3. I was having a psychotic break. The grief, the shock, the cold, the exhaustion, it had finally cracked my sanity. I unlocked the phone and read the words again. I'm not dead. It did not feel like a prank. It did not feel like madness. It felt like her. The same short, declarative, commanding tone she used for everything. No wasted words. My brain screamed trap. It screamed hallucination. But my body was already moving. My instincts, the ones that knew the precise tensile strength of steel and the load-bearing capacity of concrete, were telling me this was real. This was structural. I grabbed my keys from the hook. I did not turn on the house lights. I did not bother with my soaking coat. I tore out of the driveway, my tires spinning on the wet asphalt before catching. The rain was somehow heavier now, the wipers beating a frantic, useless rhythm against the windshield. I pushed the sedan, faster than was safe on the winding coastal roads. The 10-mile drive back to Mariner's Bluff, feeling like an eternity. The world outside was a black, watery void. I swung the car through the cemetery's main gates. They were unlocked. They should not have been unlocked. I killed the engine but left the high beams on. They cut white tunnels through the rain, illuminating the rows of pale, gleaming headstones. The marble angels looked like they were weeping. The world was utterly silent, except for the storm and the roar of blood pounding in my ears. Then I saw it. Tucked back in the service area, almost completely obscured by the shadow of the oldest oak tree, sat a large, silver SUV. It was immaculate, starkly clean against the mud. It had no license plates. I sat there, my hand on the gear shift, my foot hovering over the brake, ready to throw the car in reverse and flee. The SUV's parking lights flashed. Twice, a brief, deliberate, 2-beat signal. My breath hitched so hard it hurt. That was our signal. From when I was a kid, waiting in the car while she ran errands. When I'd see her walking back across the parking lot, I'd flash the lights twice to let her know I saw her. A private, 2-flash hello. It was her. I fumbled with the door handle and got out, the rain hitting me like a physical blow. I walked, then ran, toward the dark vehicle. My dress shoes slipped in the mud, nearly sending me to my knees. The passenger door of the silver SUV swung open. She was sitting in the driver's seat. It was Vivian. She was pale, terrifyingly pale, a waxy, translucent color I'd only ever seen in the hospital. She looked 20 pounds thinner than the last time I'd seen her conscious, her hair lank and dark with damp. But her eyes were the same, those sharp, intelligent, flint-gray eyes, and right now, they were filled with an urgency that bordered on pure panic. "Sloan," she commanded, her voice a dry, papery rasp. "Get in, now." I collapsed into the passenger seat, slamming the door against the storm. The car was warm. the air inside still and dry. "Lower your seat back," she ordered, her gaze fixed on the rearview mirror, scanning the darkness behind us. "And turn your phone off. Completely off. Not silent. Power it down." I fumbled with the device, my fingers shaking so badly I could barely hit the side button. The screen went black. I stared at her profile, the high cheekbones, the stubborn set of her jaw. "Mom?" My voice cracked. It sounded small, like a child's. I reached out a trembling hand and grabbed her arm, my fingers digging into the sleeve of her dark jacket. She was solid. She was warm. I did not just gasp. I choked on the air, a ragged, painful inhalation. It was a physical shock, like hitting cold water. This was not a ghost. This was not a hallucination conjured by grief. My mother was alive. The skin and muscle beneath my fingers were real. She briefly covered my hand with her own. Her skin was cold, but it was skin. "Listen to me," Vivian whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain hammering the roof of the SUV. "We have almost no time. You are being listened to. Your phone, your car, the house, everything is bugged." "Mom, what?" "The funeral," I whispered back, my mind unable to form a coherent question. "The hospital, the casket, I don't understand." It had to look real. Sloane. Her eyes finally left the mirror and locked onto mine. They were bright with a terrible, cold fire. It had to be perfect, because he tried to kill me. The words hung in the stale air of the car, heavier than the storm, more final than the grave I had just stood over. "Graham," she stated, "not your father. Graham." "I only have 15 minutes, she repeated, her voice gaining a fraction of its old strength. "The funeral was a lie, a necessary one. If you want to save me, and Sloane, if you want to save yourself, you have to do exactly as I say." She gripped my other hand, her hold surprisingly strong. She was forcing me to focus, to push past the impossible shock. "You must go back to the house. You must go to the office tomorrow morning. You must be the grieving daughter. You must sign nothing. You must act as if nothing happened here tonight. You must act like I am dead." "He tried to kill me," the words hung in the suffocating, dry air of the SUV. A statement of fact dropped between the hammering heartbeats of the storm outside. "How?" I whispered. The word felt abrasive, torn from my throat. "The hospital said cardiac arrest. They said his heart just gave out." "It did," Vivian said. Her voice was flat, an investigative report delivered by a stranger. This was not the mother who had held my hand after my first serious breakup. This was someone else, someone forged in the last few weeks, because he was ensuring it would. She stared past me, out the rain-lashed windshield at the rows of gravestones illuminated by my high beams. My medication, my beta blockers, he swapped them. He had been swapping them for weeks, slowly, replacing them with fakes. The memories cascaded, her increasing fatigue over the last 2 months, the complaints of dizziness, the fluttering in her chest she dismissed as anxiety, the final, terrifying episode of fibrillation that landed her in St. Alaric's. We all thought it was the stress of the company. "He bribed an orderly," she continued, her voice a monotone. "A new hire, made sure he was the one assigned to my wing, the one who brought the morning pills from the cart. Graham replaced my prescription with placebos. Sugar pills, maybe chalk, it does not matter. He was inducing cardiac arrest. Sloane, a slow, natural decline that would look tragic but inevitable. How could you possibly know that?" My mind refused to accept the geometry of the accusation. "Someone saw." Her eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, scanning the blackness. "A nurse. Her name is Noelle Bram. She was at the funeral today." The image clicked into place. The woman in the dark scrubs under the rain slicker, her face shadowed by the hood, the look in her eyes, not pity, fear. "Noelle is meticulous," Vivian said. She noticed a discrepancy in the pharmacy logs. The pills in my daily dispenser didn't match the new lot codes being issued. She thought it was a simple hospital error. So she tested one of the pills from my tray. It was inert, chalk. She came to me, Sloane, 2 days before I died. She sat on the edge of my bed, her hands shaking, and told me she believed someone was systematically poisoning me. The why was a cold stone in my stomach. The company. What else? Her voice was laced with a bitterness I had never heard. It is always the company, specifically, my shares. The 42% of Kincaid Urban Works I inherited from my father. They are locked in a trust. As long as I am alive, Graham cannot touch the principal. He cannot leverage them. He is my husband, but in the trust's bylaws, he is not my primary heir. You are. She let that sink in. He could not get the shares from her, but from me? A daughter devastated by the sudden loss of both parents in spirit, if not in fact. He needs them. Sloane, he needs them now. I knew the projects, the massive, over-budget waterfront developments in Mariners Bluff, and the attempted acquisition of the Harbor District. I was the architect, but Graham handled the money. He is over-leveraged, she said, confirming my fears. He has been swirling capital, his term, moving money between projects to cover massive losses. He needs my 42% as collateral to secure the next round of funding, or the entire company implodes, and he takes his partners down with him. With her dead, and with me presumed to be a grieving, compliant mess, all he needed was my signature on a stack of inheritance transfer documents. But in the hospital, I argued, my voice weak. The security, the other nurses, how could he manage it? He did not have to, she said. St. Alaric's was the perfect cover. The pharmacy wing has been under renovation for 2 months. Noelle checked the manifests. The main security camera in the pharmaceutical storage room, the one covering the controlled substances and high-value medications, has been offline, a documented blind spot. It was the perfect opportunity for his pet orderly to swap out the entire supply tray for my room. Not just a single dose. It was scheduled. Sloane, a planned, meticulous execution. So Noelle saved my life. Vivian's voice cracked for the first time, a hairline fracture in the ice. When I realized what Graham was doing, that he would not stop until I was gone. We knew we could not just report it. He owns the hospital board. He owns the local police. We had to move faster. We needed a plan. The temporary death plan, I breathed. The pieces connecting with sickening speed. It was Noelle's. It was insane. It was brilliant. She works the night shift. She knew about a Jane Doe, a victim from a highway pileup, brought in with catastrophic injuries, no identification, similar height, similar build, blunt force trauma that made identification difficult. Vivian turned to me, her eyes hollow in the darkness. The woman did not make it, Noelle. She's a charge nurse. She has access. She swapped the files. She flagged the Jane Doe's body for immediate release to the coroner under my name, citing a severe infectious protocol to justify the speed and the sealed casket, and she moved me, listed as the Jane Doe, to a recovery wing in a different building under observation. The closed casket, I whispered, remembering the administrator's sterile excuse about preservation. He could not see the body, Vivian confirmed. He pushed for cremation, immediately. He wanted the evidence gone, but Noelle and my lawyer blocked him. They cited religious objections I had supposedly filed with my medical directive years ago. They forced the burial. He thought the closed casket was protecting his secret. It was protecting me. My mind snagged on the new detail. Your lawyer? Mom, who else knows? Dana Corbett. I knew Dana. She handled my mother's personal estate, the small portfolio left by my grandfather, entirely separate from Kincaid Urban Works. She was sharp, quiet, and Graham despised her. When I knew what Graham was doing, before the hospital, I called her. Dana is not just a probate lawyer. Sloane, she is smart. She knew this was not just a domestic dispute, not just attempted murder. It was financial. It was big. How big? Dana connected us with someone else, someone federal, Agent Elena Ruiz, with the Financial Crimes Unit. The name hit me like a physical shock. The FBI. Agent Ruiz, Vivian continued, her voice dropping to a whisper, has been looking at your father's marina projects for 6 months. She is investigating him for money laundering. The rain, which had eased to a drizzle, now seemed to stop entirely, the world outside the SUV holding its breath. Ruiz believes Graham is not just swirling capital to cover bad investments. He is actively washing money for some very dangerous people. I, Sloan Archer, lead architect, designer of museums and waterfront parks, was the daughter of a man who was laundering money and had just tried to murder his wife. The FBI wants him, Sloan, badly, but they are stuck. They can see the smoke, but they cannot find the fire. They cannot move without internal proof. They need the real paper trail, the one that connects Kincaid Urban Works directly to the shell companies. They need the undoctored contracts. Shell companies? Ruiz named 2 of them. Vivian recited them from memory, her voice like steel. Horizon Key LLC, and a second one, Beacon Isle Partners. My blood went cold. Beacon Isle. I know that name. They were a subcontractor for the new pier project. I remember because their invoices were strange. Graham handled their contract personally. He told me they were highly specialized. They are highly specialized in making millions of dollars disappear into offshore accounts, she said. The FBI needs the transfer records, the real ones, and that is the problem. I have some of it, but I do not have all of it. Where? I knew he was watching me for months. I knew he was tracking my digital footprint, my calls. He's paranoid, so I went old school. She looked at me, a deep, painful understanding passing between us. My studio, the lighthouse atelier, in my painting room, behind the large canvas stretchers against the north wall, there is a loose floorboard. Inside is a small, air-gapped hard drive. It has the initial contracts, the ones he thought he deleted from the server. It has my notes. But it is not enough. It is not the smoking gun. Where is the rest, Mom? In his office, in his personal safe. I stopped breathing. Graham's safe was not a safe. It was a biometric. Titanium vault built into the foundation of the Kincaid Tower, hidden behind a false panel of African mahogany. That is impossible, I said. No one can get in there, not even me. I cannot, she corrected. But you can. I do not know the code. It is biometric. It is not just biometric, she cut in, her voice insistent. He is arrogant. He thinks his technology makes him invincible, but he is lazy about security he thinks is foolproof. I have watched him. He uses a variable password, but it is based on a pattern. It is always a date, his birthday, your birthday, the company anniversary, followed by a project code. I froze. My mind flashed back to 3 weeks ago. Standing in his office, reviewing the blueprints for the pier, he was at his terminal, accessing the private server. He had muttered under his breath. 0423 HP7. April 23rd. My birthday. HP7. Harbor Pier. Phase 7. She saw the recognition on my face. He does not even know he does it, she whispered. He does it right in front of you. He thinks I am just the architect, I whispered back. The dutiful daughter, harmless. Exactly. He trusts your obedience. He trusts your grief. The word grief snapped us back to the present. That is the immediate risk, Vivian said, grabbing my arm. Her fingers were bony, cold, but gripped like a vice. He needs this finished. He believes I am dead. He believes you are shattered. He is going to call you into his office tomorrow morning. He is already on his way back from Spain. His text, I said. The urgent business. He will land in a few hours. He will be at the office tomorrow, playing the grieving widower, telling everyone how he raced home but was just too late, and he will have papers for you to sign. Sloan. Consolidating the estate. Protecting your inheritance. Simplifying things during this terrible time. He will slide you a document, and you will be signing over my 42% to him. She leaned closer, her eyes boring into mine. The second you sign that, I lose all leverage. The FBI loses its access. And you? What about me? You are the last link. You are the architect who saw the Beacon Isle invoices. You are the daughter who knows his patterns. Right now, you are his key. The moment you are no longer useful, you become a liability, a loose end. The cold in the car was no longer from the rain. It was the absolute zero of realizing my father had calculated the precise dollar value of my mother's life and was likely weighing the cost of mine. "Mom, I cannot," I choked out. "This is insane. I am an architect. I cannot. I should go to the police. I should call Agent Ruiz." "No!" Her voice was a whip crack. "You cannot. We have exactly one shot. Ruiz cannot get a warrant for that safe without the probable cause from my air-gapped drive, and I cannot get that drive to her until we have the rest of the proof from the safe. It is a catch-22. If you go to the local police, Graham will know within an hour. He has half the Mariners Bluff PD on his private payroll. They will tip him off. He will scrub that safe clean, and he will disappear, and we will disappear, permanently." She was right. The logic was as brutal and clean as one of my own designs. "You have to go back," she commanded. "You go back to the house. You lock the door. If anyone calls, you say you took a sedative. Tomorrow. You go to the office. You play the part. Sloane, you are the good daughter. You are heartbroken. You are confused. You are obedient. You are my child. And how do I talk to you? What if something goes wrong? My phone." "Your phone is compromised," she finished. "So is your car. So is the house. Assume he hears everything." She reached into the back seat and pulled a heavy backpack onto her lap. She unzipped it and pulled out a device. It was solid black, heavy, like a high-end walkie-talkie, with no branding. "This is from Noelle. She has the other one. It is a military-grade encrypted radio. Short range, digital frequency hopper. It cannot be scanned. It cannot be traced. When you are clear, when you are alone, ideally in your car, moving, or outside, you use this. Channel 3. Only then. Only when you are sure." She shoved it into my hands. It was heavy, solid. The weight of it was terrifying. "Now," she said, her eyes cutting to the cemetery gates. A car was approaching on the main road. "You have to go. You were never here. We never spoke." "Where will you go?" I cried, panic rising like bile. "Are you safe?" "Noelle and Dana have a place. A safe house. I am safe for now. But, Sloane." She gripped my chin, her nails digging in slightly, forcing me to look at her. "The only way out is through. You are the only person who can walk into that office tomorrow. You are the only one he will let near that safe." "Mom, I am scared." "Good," Vivian Archer said, her gray eyes like chips of granite. "So am I. Now use it. Go." She released me. I stared at her for one more second, imprinting the impossible reality of her face, pale, thin, exhausted, but fiercely, terrifyingly alive, onto my brain. I opened the door and stumbled back into the storm. The silver SUV did not turn on its headlights. It moved silently, a ghost in the fog, rolling down the gravel path and vanishing onto the coastal highway. I stood alone in the mud, the encrypted radio feeling like a black hole in my hand, the rain mixing with the first real tears I'd shed all day. My mother was dead. Long live my mother. I walked into the Kincaid Urban Works building at 8:50 in the morning. The lobby is a 3-story atrium of reinforced glass and brushed steel, an architectural statement I designed myself to look out over the Mariners Bluff Harbor. It was intended to capture the light, to feel open and transparent. Today, it just felt exposed. The cold gray morning light stripping everything of color. The air was chilled to a precise 68 degrees, humidified to exactly 40%. Graham's preference, control. The reception desk was different. A new, gleaming set of security turnstiles had been installed, replacing the old marble desk. The new receptionist, a young woman I did not recognize, gave me a look of deep, practiced pity. "Ms. Archer, my deepest condolences on your loss." She gestured to the new scanner. "We have a new access card for you at security. Whenever you're ready." "Thank you," I murmured, my voice intentionally thick with grief. "I'll pick it up later." I pulled my old Kincaid Urban Works ID from my bag, the one I had carried for 5 years. I walked past the new turnstiles to the old side door panel, the one still used by maintenance. I swiped my card. The light clicked green. The lock buzzed open. They had installed a brand new, multi-million-dollar security system, but they had not yet deactivated the credentials on the old one. It was sloppy. It was arrogant. It was flaw number 1. The elevator ride to the penthouse executive suite was silent, the car ascending with a pressurized whisper. The doors opened onto Graham's territory. His office was larger than my first apartment, a corner suite of glass overlooking the harbor on 2 sides. He was already there. He stood by his floor-to-ceiling window, hands clasped behind his back, looking down at the pier projects that were his obsession. He was wearing a perfectly tailored black suit, a somber dark gray tie. He looked exactly like the man who had supposedly just flown back overnight from Zurich to find his wife gone. He looked powerful, somber, and completely in charge. He turned as the doors opened, his face a perfect mask of profound, weary sadness. "Sloane, you came." He crossed the vast expanse of his Persian rug and wrapped his arms around me. It was a stiff, cold embrace, smelling of expensive cologne, cedar, and recycled air. It was the hug of a CEO, not a father. I let myself go limp, resting my head against his shoulder for exactly 3 seconds, playing the role of the shattered, obedient daughter. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," he murmured, his voice a low, gravelly performance. I tried to get back. The moment I heard, I could not get a flight out until it was too late. I pulled back, dabbing at my eyes. They were genuinely red and swollen, just not for the reasons he believed. The sleepless night, the encounter in the cemetery, they were my camouflage. Sit. He guided me to one of the heavy leather chairs opposite his massive mahogany desk. "Can Sierra get you anything? Coffee? Water?" As if summoned, Sierra Knox materialized from the doorway, holding a silver tray. She looked pale, her makeup subdued, her expensive blonde hair pulled back in a severe, respectful bun. Her eyes were brimming with what she probably thought passed for empathy. "Graham, I brought those files you requested." She placed a heavy, leather-bound portfolio on the desk. Then she turned to me. "Sloane, I am so terribly sorry for your loss." I just nodded, unable to speak, which fit the role perfectly. She poured a coffee for Graham. Black, 2/3 full, just as he liked it. As she set the cup on his desk, she accidentally let her hand rest on his shoulder. It lingered, a gesture of casual, proprietary intimacy. It was a soft assertion of her new position. She was no longer just the assistant. She was the successor. I filed the image away. "Thank you, Sierra. That will be all for now," Graham said. She gave him a look of deep, mournful understanding and glided out, closing the heavy oak door with a faint, hydraulic click. The silence that fell was absolute. Graham sat down, folding his hands on top of the leather portfolio. "This is unpleasant. Sloane, I know the timing is awful, but the accountants, the lawyers, they insisted. Just some formalities. To transfer Vivian's estate holdings." He pushed the portfolio toward me. My hands were shaking, but it looked like grief. I opened it. The first page was a complex, dense document titled, "Transfer of Inheritance and Asset Consolidation." My stomach tightened into a cold knot. "It is just standard probate," he said, his voice a soothing, paternal baritone. "It simplifies everything, moves all of your mother's assets, the company shares, everything, under my stewardship, to protect them for you, of course, until you are ready. Until he can leverage them into oblivion." My eyes scanned the signature line on the 3rd page. It was a proxy signature. Vivian Archer, by Graham Kincaid, POA. Next to it was a notary stamp, dated 3 days ago, while she was in the ICU, supposedly unconscious. But that was not the flaw. The flaw was the notary's own signature. Just below it, the blue ink was vivid, almost glossy. It was fresh. It was still drying. They had faked the document this morning. They had rushed it. Flaw number 2. She was weak for a long time. Sloan, Graham said, leaning back, watching me. He was probing, testing my defenses, feeding me the narrative I was supposed to adopt. You knew that. We both did. Her heart. It was never strong. The doctors said it was a miracle she lasted this long. I know, I whispered. It was the only truth I could offer. This is the best thing, he continued, his voice full of false compassion. For her. She is not in pain anymore. It is best to just let everything rest. Let her rest. Let the business rest. I kept my head down, pretending to read the dense legal text. My contact lenses felt strange, the right one infinitesimally heavier than the left. I blinked slowly, deliberately. A tiny, imperceptible click registered only to me as the nano camera in the right lens focused, capturing the entire page. I blinked again, turning the page. The lens had a 5-second refresh. Blink, capture, blink, capture. I documented every single page of his fraudulent transfer, every forged signature, every falsified date. I finally closed the folder. It is a lot, I murmured, pushing my hair back. I do not understand all this legal language. Dad, I cannot sign this right now. I saw a flicker of irritation in his eyes, so fast it was almost invisible. He recovered instantly, his face softening back into the mask of paternal concern. Of course, sweetheart, of course not. I would not dream of pressuring you. Can I just take it home? To read it? When my head is clearer? He smiled, a broad, generous, understanding smile. It was the smile of a predator that had just cornered its prey and was now enjoying the final moments. He was supremely confident. He believed he had already won. He believed I was broken, grieving, and compliant. Naturally, he said, waving his hand expansively. Take your time. Take the week. Whatever you need. Sloan. He leaned forward, his voice dropping. Your only job right now is to grieve. I stood up, my legs feeling unsteady. Thank you. I think I'll just go home. I did not sleep. I will call you tonight. We will have dinner later this week, when I am back from settling her final affairs. He walked me to the door. As I turned, I looked back at the wall behind his desk. It was dominated by a massive, backlit photograph, a family portrait from years ago, on our old sailboat, the Sea Warden, the three of us, smiling, tanned, a perfect, sun-bleached lie. But as an architect, I see things differently. I see joinery. I see seams. The photo was framed in heavy African mahogany, the same rare, ridiculously expensive wood as the wall paneling, but the frame was not flush. There was a hairline gap, less than 1/16 of an inch, running in a perfect square around the image. It was not a picture hanging on a wall. It was a door. It was cut into the wall that I knew was 2-foot thick, reinforced structural concrete. My mother was right. As I stepped into the hallway, I deliberately let my hand drift, my fingertips brushing the edge of the mahogany frame. I felt the cool, smooth wood and the faint vibration of the electronic locking mechanism behind it. I left a perfect, clear set of fingerprints on the lower right corner, a stupid, rookie mistake for a grieving, clumsy girl to make, a piece of noise for his security team to find and dismiss. I walked down the hall, my pace steady, forcing myself not to run. The door to the secondary conference room, the small one that shared a wall with his office, was ajar, just a crack. I paused, pretending to check my phone for a message. Through the crack, I saw it. The room was dark, but the green glow of active electronics was unmistakable. I saw the back of the wall that held the painting, and mounted on it, a biometric hand scanner and a numerical keypad, glowing faintly. Next to it, on a server rack, was the internal camera control panel. A bank of monitors showed live feeds from the executive suite, the hallway, the elevator lobby, and most importantly, a high-angle shot of the keypad itself. I saw the keypad. I saw the camera hub. I had my target. I got into the elevator, the doors sliding shut, enclosing me in a box of brushed steel and silent judgment. As the car began its smooth descent, I felt a vibration from the deep pocket of my coat. Not my phone. The encrypted radio. I leaned against the elevator wall, out of sight of the internal camera, and pulled it out just enough to see the tiny backlit screen. A new text message from Noelle. Safety window confirmed. 9:10 p.m. to 9:25 p.m. Fire system test. Admin hallway cameras will lag. Good luck. 9:10 at night. I had less than 12 hours. The elevator stopped. I braced myself, expecting to walk out into the busy lobby, but it had stopped on the executive parking level. The doors opened, and Sierra Knox was standing there, blocking my path. She stepped inside, hitting the lobby button. The doors closed, locking us in together. She did not look sympathetic now. Her face was cold, analytic, her blue eyes sharp. "He is not a man you can fight, Sloane," she said, her voice a low, hard whisper. There was no pity in it now, only a warning, or perhaps a threat. I looked at her, my reflection staring back at me from the polished steel wall. I looked exhausted. I looked small. I looked broken. "I am not fighting," I replied, my voice hoarse. "I am counting." Her brow furrowed. Counting what? The flaws in my father's design. The elevator doors opened to the lobby. I walked out without looking back. As I crossed the vast, empty atrium, I glanced back at the elevator bank. Sierra was still standing inside the car, the doors held open by her hand. She was staring down at her phone, her thumb typing furiously. I knew exactly what that message said. "Check the safe." She touched the wall. She thought I was stupid. He thought I was broken. That was the only reason I was still alive. 9:11 p.m. The chime was soft, melodic, echoing in the cavernous, empty administrative hallway. It was not a klaxon. It was polite. "This is a test of the fire annunciation system," a calm, automated female voice announced, her voice bouncing off the Italian marble. "This is only a test." A fraction of a second later, the strobes kicked in. White, black, white, black. A silent, frantic pulse of light that turned the corridor into a series of fractured still photographs. The main hallway cameras, the ones covering the approach to Graham's office, were now, as Noelle had promised, lagging. They were capturing exactly one frame every 5 seconds, synchronized with the flash. To anyone watching the security monitor, the hallway would just look empty, captured in a repeating loop of sterile white light. My window had opened. It was 15 minutes long. I was at the far end of the floor, at the service entrance used by the technical crews. My old employee identification card felt thin and useless in my gloved hand. The new security system, the one Sierra had mentioned, was all biometric scanners and facial recognition at the front. But here, in the back, the integration was not finished. The old magnetic stripe reader was still wired in. I slid my card. The light on the panel remained red. My heart seized. I swiped it again, faster, harder. A heavy, oily thunk sounded from the wall. The deadbolt retracted. I pushed the door open, slipped inside, and let it click shut behind me. No log, no digital footprint. Flaw number 3. The penthouse suite was dark, a cave of glass overlooking the glittering black water of the harbor. The only sound was the distant, muffled chime. "This is only a test." I moved directly to the wall behind Graham's desk. The family portrait. I ran my gloved fingers along the lower right edge, where I had deliberately left my fingerprints that morning. They were gone. The wood was polished, sterile, wiped perfectly clean. Sierra had been here, or Graham. They had seen my clumsy touch. They had scanned the safe, found nothing, reset their internal alarms, and dismissed me as a grieving, sentimental fool. They thought the threat was over. I pressed my fingers into the hairline seam I had noticed. The line between the frame and the wall. It was magnetically sealed. I pulled, hard. It resisted. A vacuum of air holding it shut. Then it gave way with a low, expensive whoosh. I swung the massive photo panel open on its silent, recessed hinges. The wall behind it was not mahogany. It was a solid plate of brushed steel. A small, biometric hand scanner glowed green, and beside it, a digital keypad. My breath stopped. My mother's intel, MMDD plus project code. I thought back to the cluttered mess on his desk, the details I had obsessively photographed in my mind for years, cataloging the architecture of my father's life, the company anniversary calendar I had passed on the way out. Today, April 23rd, was circled in red. Harbor Pier Revive, launch, the public-facing project code, HP7. My fingers went to the pad. I typed the date, 0423. I typed the code, HP7. The keypad flashed a vicious, angry red, access denied. A wave of cold panic washed over me. The chime echoed again. This is only a test. I closed my eyes. I pictured his desk. I pictured him. He was arrogant, but he was lazy. He abbreviated. He did not care about branding. He cared about numbers. The coffee cup. The photo I had taken 2 weeks ago for the new wing proposal. His coffee cup was in the background. A white ceramic mug covered in his own black dry erase scrawl. It did not say HP7. It said HP07. The dash, the leading zero. But the keypad had no dash. What if he skipped the letters entirely? A man like Graham only trusted numbers. I placed my fingers back on the keypad. The date, 0423, the project number, 07. There was a half-second pause, then a deep, heavy thunk resonated through the steel, like a bank vault's bolt retracting. A panel of green light illuminated the handle. It was open. The clock on his desk read 9:16 p.m. I had 9 minutes left. I pulled the heavy steel door open. The air inside smelled of cold metal and recycled, sterile air. It was not a safe. It was a vault. And it was full. My eyes scanned the contents, my mind cataloging, prioritizing, binders, 3 of them, black leather, spine labels printed in his severe, all-caps font. Beacon Isle Partners, Private. Horizon Qui LLC, ACQ. Belize Central Trust, Sub-Ledger. This was it. This was the laundromat. And sitting on the top shelf, stark and black, was a single USB flash drive. The white label on it read, in that same severe print, Tiller. My mother was right about everything. Tucked behind the binders, almost an afterthought, was something else, a cream-colored envelope, thick cotton paper. It was sealed not with glue, but with a spot of dark burgundy wax, and pressed into the wax was the signet ring my mother always wore, her initials, V.A., Vivian Archer. A hot, sharp blade of rage cut through my cold focus. This was not his. This was private. He had stolen it from her desk after she died. My hand shot out. I did not hesitate. I slid the envelope into the deep inner pocket of my jacket. It felt heavy, a solid weight against my ribs. I turned back to the safe. I could not take the binders. I could not take the drive. He would have weight sensors. He would have digital checksums on the drive. The moment he saw they were gone, he would vanish. The FBI needed the proof, but they needed him to believe he was still secure. I pulled out my own device, not the radio, a slim, high-resolution digital camera, built for low-light industrial inspections. Silent shutter. I opened the Beacon Isle binder. I did not read. I photographed. Click, signature page. Click, wire transfer authorization. Click, the page with the Maltese routing numbers. I moved to the Belize ledger. Click, totals. Click, account numbers. I put the binders back, in the exact order, angled precisely as I had found them. I picked up the tiller drive. My fingers were steady. I photographed the front. I turned it over. The serial number. I zoomed in. The macro lens focusing. Click. I placed the drive back, angled just so. Perfect. 9:21 p.m. 4 minutes left. I was reaching to close the heavy steel door. My eyes did one last sweep of the interior. And I saw it. On the inner wall of the safe, near the hinge, almost perfectly camouflaged against the brushed steel, was a translucent sticker. It was no bigger than my fingernail. It looked like a stray piece of adhesive, but I could see the faint, hair-thin lines of a printed circuit. It was not a sticker. It was a secondary sensor, a proximity trigger, a last-ditch alarm for if the keypad was somehow bypassed. As my brain processed the danger, my other hand, the one closing the door, slipped on the smooth, cold steel. My gloved knuckles brushed the translucent sticker. A single, microscopic red light, smaller than a pinprick, flashed once. It made no sound. My blood turned to ice. It was a silent alarm. The fingerprint on the outside. That was the noise. That was the stupid daughter alarm. This was the real one. The one that meant the vault had been breached. Somewhere, right now, a silent notification was landing on Graham's phone. On Sierra's phone. Safe breach, level 2. The clock on the desk read 9:23 p.m. My 15-minute window had just evaporated to 2. I did not pause. I slammed the vault door. It sealed with a heavy pneumatic hiss. I swung the family portrait back into the wall. The magnets caught. The seam vanished. I did not go back to the service door. I ran. I sprinted across the dark office, toward the emergency fire exit on the far side of the floor. As my hand hit the crash bar, I fumbled in my pocket for the encrypted radio. I hit the pre-programmed button for Noelle. A single, one-word text. Now. It was the signal. Across town, Noelle was dialing the building's security center, feeding them a pre-recorded, panicked report of a fire in the third-floor server room. A distraction. A digital ghost designed to pull their eyes away from the executive floor monitors for the critical 60 seconds I needed. I slammed through the fire door, into the cold, concrete stairwell. The air was dead. The automated chimes were faint, muffled. I was out. I stopped on the landing, my lungs burning, my pulse hammering in my throat. I had to know. I cracked the heavy fire door, just an inch, and peered back into the administrative hallway. The strobes were still flashing, white, black, and she was there. At the far end of the corridor, by the main elevators, Sierra. She was standing stock still. She was not running toward the office. She was just watching. She was staring up at the security camera on the ceiling. The one I knew was lagging. The one capturing one frame every 5 seconds. Then, in the next pulse of white light, her head turned. She was no longer looking at the camera. She was looking directly down the hallway, directly at the fire door, directly at the dark, vertical crack where my eye was. She knew. She was not fooled by the fire alarm. She knew this shortcut. She knew the camera's blind spots. And in the split second before the hallway plunged back into darkness, I saw her smile. The Sandpiper Diner was a 24-hour holdout on the commercial fishing pier, smelling of old coffee, salt, and industrial-strength bleach. It was the last place anyone from Kincaid Urban Works would ever be seen. I slid into the back booth. The vinyl cracked and cold. Dana Corbett was nursing a black tea, her leather satchel placed protectively on the seat beside her. Agent Elena Ruiz was across from her, her hands wrapped around a thick ceramic mug of coffee, her eyes scanning every person who walked through the door. She looked less like a federal agent and more like a burnt-out longshoreman. I placed the microcamera on the table between the salt shaker and the sugar packets. It was no bigger than a coin. I got in. I got everything. Ruiz did not celebrate. She simply produced a small, nondescript tablet from her coat and plugged the camera into a port. We huddled together. the greasy air of the diner feeling suddenly confidential. The only light coming from the tablet screen and the red neon open sign buzzing in the window. The images flashed by, stark and clear in the low light, the binders, the ledgers, the transfer authorizations. Horizon K, LLC, Ruiz murmured, zooming in on a signature line. Beacon Isle Partners, and the transfers. She swiped to the next image, a bank statement from the Belize ledger. He is routing it, just as we suspected, through Belize, then Malta. This is the pipeline, this is the wash. Tiller, I said, my voice hoarse. The drive was labeled Tiller. Ruiz paused. A tiller? It steers the boat. It steers the cash flow, I finished. He is steering hundreds of millions of dollars offshore. Dana, who had been silent, finally spoke. This is it. Then, this is more than enough for a warrant. We can seize the originals. We can freeze those Maltese accounts before he empties them. Ruiz shook her head, her gaze hardening as she looked at me. No, not yet. This is phenomenal. Sloan, this gets me his books. This gets me wire fraud, racketeering, money laundering on a massive scale. But it does not get me him for the attempt on your mother. This is corporate. He will sacrifice Sierra. He will blame his CFO. He will walk away from the attempted murder charge, claiming he knew nothing about the pills. We need the personal link. We need the bridge between the money and the medicine. We might have it, I said. I pulled the encrypted radio from my coat. It felt heavy, a brick of dread. I got a signal from Noelle just before I left the house. The diner's ambient noise, the clatter of plates, the low murmur of the fisherman at the counter, seemed to fade. She has been digging, the orderly who was bribed. He did not act alone. He did not have the access. Who did? Ruiz leaned in. The night shift pharmaceutical supervisor, a man named Axel Dorn. Noelle says Dorn is the one who managed the blind spot in the camera feed. He is the one who falsified the inventory logs to cover the swap. He was not just bribed, Ruiz. He was the architect of the medical part of the plan. Axel Dorn, Ruiz repeated, the name tasting like a new weapon. He is our man. He is the link. If we can find him, we can flip him. He connects Graham directly to the syringe. There is a problem, I said. Noelle checked the schedule. Dorn called in sick 2 days ago. He has not been seen since. His apartment is empty. He is in the wind. He will surface, Ruiz said with grim confidence. People like Axel Dorn always need more money. He ran, which means he is scared, and scared men make mistakes. As if summoned by the very concept of a mistake. My personal cell phone, the one I kept active as a decoy, the one I assumed was a live microphone broadcasting directly to my father, buzzed on the table. It was a text message from Sierra Knox. Dana and Ruiz both froze. I looked at the screen. It was not text. It was an image, a high-resolution photograph of a document. My blood turned to ice water. It was an insurance contract, a key person policy for Vivian Archer, the beneficiary, Graham Kincaid, the payout, 8 figures. My eyes snapped to the date, 3 months ago. And then I saw the addendum, stapled to the main policy, an amendment, signed by Graham, countersigned by the insurance carrier, dated 90 days ago. He had doubled the payout. My God, Dana whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. This is not just covering his losses. This is motive. This is premeditated. He was planning this for months. Before I could respond, the phone buzzed again. Sierra. This time, it was text. Parking garage, Kincaid Tower, level P3, 10 minutes, come alone, or this document goes to Graham's lawyer as proof of your mother's financial instability, and I will testify that she was suicidal. The threat was surgical. It was precise. It is a trap, Ruiz said instantly, her voice flat. She saw you in the hallway. She knows you are not the grieving daughter. She is flushing you out, trying to see who you are working with. I know it is a trap, I said, my mind racing. But that photograph, Ruiz, that is the link. That is the personal connection. That connects his finances directly to her death. I have to go. Sloan, no, Dana argued, grabbing my arm. It is reckless. She is playing you. I am the only one she will meet, I said, standing up, throwing a $20 bill on the table. Stay here. Wait for my signal on the radio. The parking garage on level P3 was a concrete tomb, echoing with the hum of ventilation and the drip of condensation. The air was cold, heavy with the smell of exhaust and damp cement. Sierra was waiting for me, leaning against the polished black fender of a Range Rover identical to my father's. She was not the subservient assistant. She was not the false mourner. She was cold, poised, and looked utterly unafraid. That was incredibly stupid tonight. Sloan, she said. Her voice was not a whisper. It was a clear, sharp statement that cut through the humming silence. What do you want, Sierra? She pushed off the car, her heels clicking on the concrete. I want what you want. A way out. I almost laughed. It came out as a dry, harsh cough. You were just in Spain with him. You are wearing a $2,000 coat. You do not look like you need a way out. You look like you have arrived. Her expression twisted, a flash of genuine, venomous anger. You think I am his mistress? You think I am some glorified concubine? She took a step closer, her eyes glittering with a cold, intellectual fury. I am his broker. Sloan, I am the one who built the pipeline to Malta. I am the one who deals with the men who own Beacon Isle Partners. Spain was not a vacation. It was a damage control mission, because your father got sloppy, because he got personal. The word hung in the air. I signed on for sophisticated money laundering, she continued, her voice a low, precise hiss. It is percentages. It is digital. It is clean. I did not sign on for this. This medieval wet work. He is unstable. He tried to murder his wife over an insurance policy and 42% of the company stock. What in God's name do you think he will do to me? The person who actually knows where the bodies are buried, the moment I am no longer useful? She saw the same future I did. We were both liabilities. He is paranoid, she said. After your little field trip to his office, he is convinced you are working with a corporate rival. He is moving everything. You did not answer my question, I said, holding her gaze. What are you offering? Immunity. The word was sharp. You are not working with a rival. You are working with the feds. I knew it the moment I saw your face this morning. You are a terrible liar. I want a deal. I give you the final piece. The linchpin he holds over everyone. In exchange, you get your federal friends to give me full immunity and a new passport. What linchpin? She reached into her coat pocket. She was not nervous. Her hand was steady. She tossed me a small, heavy object. It glittered under the fluorescent lights before I caught it. A key, a simple, old-fashioned, brass safe deposit box key. Mariner's Bluff Trust, she said. The main branch on Water Street. Box 415. It is where he keeps his real leverage, the stuff he does not even trust in the office vault, the things he has on his partners, on the politicians, and I suspect, on Axel Dorn. He is on his way there tonight to clean it out. What is in it? I do not know, she said, but he is terrified of it, and that key is my proof of good faith. You want to stop him? Go now. That key is your only way in. She turned, got in her car, and drove away without looking back. I stood there for a long time, the cold key biting into my palm. I got back to my own car, parked 3 blocks away. I drove to a dark residential street, killed the engine, and pulled out the encrypted radio. Ruiz, Donna, we have a problem. I explained the meeting, the key, the box. The radio crackled, and Ruiz's voice was sharp, furious. It is a setup, a cat's paw operation. Sloan, do not go near that bank. Explain, I said, my stomach tightening. She wants you to go to the bank. She is giving you the key. The second you put that key into that lock, you are committing a felony. Illegal access. Bank burglary. Graham will have the bank manager and 2 cops waiting for you in the vault. They will arrest you on the spot. Dana's voice cut in, equally frantic. And everything we have, Sloan, everything. The photos from the safe, the drive from your mother's studio, it all becomes inadmissible. Fruit of the poisonous tree. You will be the criminal, the disgruntled, unstable daughter attempting to frame her grieving father. Sierra is not offering you a way in. She is building you a cage. I sat in the darkness, the logic of their trap settling over me like a shroud. Sierra was not flipping. She was doubling down. I looked in my rearview mirror, a dark sedan, a block back, its lights off. It had been following me since I left the parking garage. I spoke into the radio, my voice barely a whisper. It is worse than that. It is not just a legal trap. It is a surveillance trap. Sierra was not alone. Graham's private security is on me. They are watching me right now. I watched the man in the sedan lift a long-lens camera. He was documenting me holding the key. A new, colder, more perfect realization dawned. The architecture of the lie. They know, I whispered. This is not Sierra trying to flip. This is Graham directing her. They are working together. They are pushing me, funneling me, toward that bank box. It is a performance. They are building a narrative. Then we pull back, Ruiz commanded. The operation is blown. Get out of there. No, I said, my mind suddenly clear, seeing the lines of the design, the false walls, the load-bearing lies. No, we do not pull back. We reverse the trap. What are you talking about? Dana asked. They want me to focus on the bank. They are putting all their resources, all their attention, on that safe deposit box. Graham is going there. Sierra is sending me there. His security is tailing me to make sure I know about it. It is a massive, coordinated piece of misdirection. A distraction, Ruiz said. From what? I felt the weight in my jacket pocket. The thing I had stolen. The thing that was not on any inventory. The heavy, cream-colored envelope, sealed with my mother's wax signet, the one marked V.A. From the one thing I took, I said into the radio. The one thing they did not account for. The one thing they do not know I have. I looked in the mirror again. The surveillance car was still there, waiting patiently. Let them watch the bank, I said. Let them fill their stage with actors. We are going to let them play this out. You and I, Dana. We are going to my mother's studio, the Lighthouse Atelier. We are going to open this envelope. We are going to find out what the real linchpin is. I started my car, turned left, and drove away, letting the surveillance team follow me, letting them believe I was running scared, right into their trap. The real move was the one they never saw coming. The Lighthouse Atelier was my mother's real home. It was a converted 19th century lighthouse keeper's cottage perched on the rocky edge of the bluff, a mile south of the house Graham owned. It was the one place he never entered. He called it her hobby room, a dismissive, patronizing term for the place she ran her private, successful art restoration business. The air inside was thick, sacred. It smelled of linseed oil, turpentine, old canvas, and the sharp, clean bite of sea salt. It was the smell of her. Dana Corbett was with me. We had parked 2 towns over and taken a cab to a cutoff point, hiking the last mile along the dark cliff path. The studio was cold, the only light coming from the single desk lamp I switched on. You said she left something here, Dana said, her voice a low murmur, respectful of the space. In the floor, I said. I walked to the north wall, past the massive canvas stretchers leaning against the plaster. I knelt, my fingers finding the familiar groove in the old pine floorboards. I lifted the 6th board. It came up with a faint sigh of old wood. Inside the dark hollow was a small, oilcloth-wrapped bundle. I lifted it out. It was heavy. Inside was the air-gapped hard drive. This is what she saved first, I said, placing it on the desk. The contracts, the ones that proved the link to Horizon Key and Beacon Isle before he officially signed them. Dana nodded, pulling a laptop from her own bag. This is good. This establishes a pattern. It's not enough, I said. It's not what I came for. I reached deep into the inner pocket of my jacket. My fingers brushed the thick, cream-colored cotton of the envelope. I pulled it out. V.A. The burgundy wax seal was intact, my mother's signet pressed firmly into it. I took this from his safe, I said. Dana's eyes widened. Sloane, what? I did not answer. I used a palette knife from my mother's workbench, the blade thin and sharp, to slice the wax seal open. The paper unfolded stiffly. Several documents fell out onto the desk. The first was not a letter. It was a document, a certified copy of a birth certificate. From the state of Rhode Island, it listed my name, Sloane Archer, my mother, Vivian Archer, my father, Graham Kincaid. It was the one I had always known. But underneath it was a second one. It was also a birth certificate, from the state of Massachusetts. My name was Sloane Whitlaw, my mother, Vivian Archer, my father, Rowan Whitlaw. I stared at it, the world tilted, the floor of the studio seeming to fall away toward the sea. Dana, I whispered, what is this? Dana looked at the second certificate, her face pale in the lamplight. Oh, Vivian, she breathed. I don't understand, I said, my voice numb. Who is Rowan Whitlaw? He was a sculptor, Dana said softly. Her eyes filled with a sudden, profound sadness. He worked in marble. He was brilliant. He was your mother's first? Well, he died. Sloane, a long time ago, in an accident at his quarry, just before you were born. Graham Kincaid was not my father. The man I had spent my entire life trying to please, the man whose approval was the foundation of my entire career, the man who had just tried to murder my mother, was not my father. A lifetime of small disconnects, of cold shoulders, of feeling like an alien in my own home, suddenly snapped into focus. Then I saw the letter. It was on my mother's thick personal stationery, her handwriting a strong, clear, architectural script. My dearest Sloane, it began. By the time you are reading this, I am either gone or I am in hiding. And you have found the truth. Graham is not your father. Your father was a man named Rowan Whitlaw. He was a good man, a kind man, a man who built things with his hands instead of with other people's money. I loved him. When he died, he left me only one thing, a small, independent trust fund, managed out of Boston, to be held for his child. For you, it was not a fortune, but it was enough for you to be free, enough for you to choose your own path. When I married Graham, I was grieving, and I was pregnant with you. He knew. He knew from the beginning. He knew you were not his. He did not care. He was not marrying me. He was marrying my father's 42% of the company. He saw you as a necessary part of the merger. But he is a man who cannot abide loose ends. He could not stand the idea of you having an escape hatch he did not control. Years ago, he used his lawyers to absorb the Whitlaw Trust into a Kincaid-controlled holding company. Under the guise of better management, he buried it. He took your independence, Sloane, and he made you financially dependent on him. He told me it was simpler this way. Cleaner for the estate. I was weak, and I was afraid of him. I let him. This is his sickness. Control. He needs to own everything. Me, the company, and you. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the paper. He had not just lied to me my entire life. He had stolen my real father's legacy. He had bound me to him with chains of money that were never his to forge. I read on. This truth is your key. Sloane, the only reason he needs your signature on that inheritance transfer is to legitimize his claim. He has no blood right. He has no legal right as your stepfather. Not after this. If you can prove he actively and systematically hid your true assets from you, if you can prove financial duress, his entire claim on my shares, on the estate, on you, it all dissolves. He cannot inherit from the heir he was actively defrauding. I looked at Dana. Her face was a mask of cold, professional rage. He did it, she whispered. That bastard. I always wondered where the Whitlaw Trust went. He told me years ago it had been dissolved. He lied to my face. There was more in the envelope. The next document was a photocopy of a microfiche invoice. It was from a chemical supply company I did not recognize. The invoice was billed to Harbor 24, one of Graham's slush fund accounts. The charge was for experimental cardiac compounds. The recipient was listed as a Dr. A. Dorn at a private PMO box. The date on the invoice was 3 months ago, the exact day my mother had her first attack. He had not just bribed Axel Dorn, he had funded him. He had used company money to purchase the very tools of her murder. This was the premeditation. This was the financial abuse. This was the bridge. He paid for the poison, I said, my voice dead, with the same money he was laundering through Beacon Isle. The last document made my breath catch. It was a scan of the key person insurance policy, the one Sierra had sent me, the one that doubled the payout. But this scan was different. On the third page, a single clause was circled in my mother's red ink. Section 4B. This policy and all claims herein are rendered immediately null and void upon legal proof that the beneficiary, Graham Kincaid, has engaged in willful financial malfeasance, duress, or coercion against the insured, Vivian Archer, or her legal heirs. Sierra had not seen it. She, like Graham, had only seen the dollar signs. She thought she was holding a winning hand. My mother had just shown me that the entire deck was a fraud. He gets nothing, I said, the words cutting through the quiet studio. He gets nothing. I looked at Dana, the pieces connecting, the architecture of my countermove forming. The insurance policy is the bomb, but my mother just gave us the disarm code. His financial abuse, hiding my trust, using company funds for the murder attempt. It is the financial duress. The policy is void. Sloan, you're right, Dana said, her mind working as fast as mine. We have him. We have the motive, the premeditation, and the legal mechanism to invalidate his entire plan. File it, I commanded. File it now. We file for an emergency restraining order against Graham, for both me and my mother. We file the dual birth certificates. We file the proof of the hidden trust as evidence of systematic financial abuse. We submit the invoice for the cardiac compounds as proof of intent. Dana was already on her phone, pulling up legal forms. This will trigger an immediate asset freeze. He will be locked out of everything. I grabbed the encrypted radio. I hit the button for Agent Ruiz. Ruiz, are you there? Her voice crackled back instantly, sharp and anxious. Sloan, what is your status? My team is moving on the bank. They've spotted Graham's car. Let them, I said, my voice cold and clear. The bank is a ghost. It is a distraction. I have the real motive. I have the proof of financial duress. I have an invoice from a Kincaid shell company paying for the chemicals used to poison my mother. He paid for it. Ruiz, I have the paper trail. There was a long silence on the line. I could hear her breathing. My God, Archer, she finally said. Send me those scans. Send them now. Dana is filing the civil motion as we speak, I said. It will freeze his assets before he even gets out of the bank vault. He is trapped. This is it, Ruiz said, a new energy in her voice. This guts him. But Sloan, it is still not the final piece. This is a brilliant financial case. But for the murder charge, he will still blame Dorn. He will say Dorn acted alone, that he was embezzling. I still need the medical link. I need the man who physically swapped the pills. I need Axel Dorn. I looked out the studio window, at the black churning water of the Atlantic. The trap Sierra and Graham had set was for a different person, for the weak, grieving daughter. They had no idea who I was. I know, I said. He thinks I'm running right now, scared, trying to access his bank box. He thinks I'm a fool. Let him. He is exposed. His partners, the ones in Malta, the ones who own Beacon Isle. They are about to find out their money is frozen because Graham Kincaid got sloppy and tried to murder his wife. They are not going to be happy. Sloan, what are you going to do? Ruiz asked. Graham is on his boat, I said. The Sea Warden. It is his real office. He is going there after the bank, to meet his real partners, to move his real money. I am going to get Axel Dorn. But first, I am going to pull Graham Kincaid off that deck, in front of everyone. Breakwater Marina was Graham's sanctuary. It was a private, high-security dock where the new money of Mariner's Bluff parked their massive, gleaming white boats. The air smelled of low tide, diesel, and new money. High-pressure sodium lamps cast a sickly, buzzing orange glow over the floating concrete piers, making the water look like black oil. The only sounds were the rhythmic clack-clack-clack of halyards slapping against carbon fiber masts and the deep, resonant groan of the docks themselves. His boat, the Sea Warden, was moored at the very end of Pier D, the most secure slip. It was not a sailboat, it was a 70-foot luxury motor yacht. A sleek, aggressive machine of dark blue fiberglass and tinted glass. It was a floating fortress. It was where he met his real partners, the men from Beacon Isle and Horizon Key. It was where he finalized the deals his office was too clean to handle. I knew I had to get him there. The civil asset freeze Dana had filed was a ticking bomb, but it was not public yet. It would take hours to process. We had a narrow window where Graham, fresh from his victory at the bank, would feel untouchable. I found Sierra Knox at her downtown condo, the one Kincaid Urban Works paid for. She was packing, throwing expensive clothes into a Rimowa suitcase. He won, she said, not looking at me. Her voice was flat, defeated. He went to the bank. He cleared it out. He called me. He was laughing. Sloan, he said you were a sentimental idiot and that your little FBI friends were amateurs. He won. He did not win, I said. He walked right into the second half of the trap. While he was in his vault, my lawyer was filing an emergency injunction. We used his financial abuse, the hidden trust, and the invoice for the drugs. We activated the nullification clause in that insurance policy. Sierra stopped packing. She slowly turned around. What? What clause? The one he did not read, I said. The one my mother knew about. The policy is void. And as of about 10 minutes ago, a judge signed an emergency order. All his assets, personal and corporate, are frozen. The Maltese accounts, the Belize ledgers, everything. His partners are about to get a phone call from their international banks telling them their money is locked in a box with my father's name on it. Sierra's face went white. She understood, instantly, what that meant. He was not just ruined, he was a dead man. His partners were not the forgiving type. They will kill him, she whispered. They will kill him, I repeated. Unless we get to him first, but I need him on that boat. I need him away from his office, away from his house. I need him where he feels safest. He will not meet you, not after tonight, she said. He will not meet me, I agreed. But he will meet you. You are his broker. You are the one who is supposed to be moving the tiller files offshore right now. You are the one who has to tell him the pipeline is frozen. I pulled out the fake USB drive Ruiz had given me, the one loaded with the honey file. You are going to call him. You are going to tell him there is a firewall problem with the tiller drive, that you cannot upload it remotely. You are having an urgent meeting with him on the Sea Warden in 1 hour to deliver it in person. You are going to use your own business card, your own codes, to get us past his security. She hesitated, her eyes darting between me and her suitcase. The life she had built was evaporating. Dana's voice crackled over the encrypted radio in my pocket. Tell her this is her only chance, if she cooperates, if her testimony matches the evidence we already have. I will personally petition the U.S. Attorney for leniency regarding the money laundering charges. Sierra heard it, the promise. It was not immunity, it was a lifeline. She looked at me, her eyes hard. And what about him? He faces his own justice, I said. She picked up her phone. He is on the boat. He is already there. He is waiting for his partners to arrive. She dialed. Graham, I have a problem with the tiller upload. It is the encryption. I am coming to the Sea Warden right now. Ruiz's team was already in place. They were not marked FBI. They were dressed as Customs and Border Patrol, their dark blue uniforms blending perfectly with the harbor environment. They were shadows on the surrounding piers, long lenses and parabolic mics aimed at the sea warden. Dana was with Ruiz in a dark, unmarked surveillance van at the head of the pier, a freshly printed warrant to seize all digital storage devices sitting on her lap. Sierra and I walked down the echoing concrete dock. The clack-clack of the masts sounded like a dozen ticking clocks. Sierra swiped her access card at the gate to Pier D. A heavy click and the gate opened. We walked down the ramp. Graham was waiting on the aft deck, bathed in the yacht's warm, golden light. He was holding a glass of scotch. He did not look like a man whose world was collapsing. He looked bored. "What is this, Sierra?" he snapped. "The Maltese connection is expecting this transfer 40 minutes ago." "The file is corrupted," Sierra said, her voice admirably steady. "I brought a hard copy on the drive." Graham's eyes flicked to me, standing just behind her in the shadows of the dock. His face tightened. "What is she doing here?" "She followed me," Sierra lied. "She is hysterical. She was waiting at my condo, babbling about bank traps and lawyers." Graham smiled. It was a cold, satisfied expression. He looked at me, a look of pure paternalistic pity. "Sloane, you are out of your depth. Go home. Your mother would be ashamed of this. Performance." "Give him the drive." "Sierra," I said, my voice flat. Sierra stepped onto the deck and handed him the fake USB drive. "It is the only copy. Graham, be careful with it." He snatched it from her hand. Finally, he walked into the main salon, toward the high-tech navigation and media center. "Get her off my boat." He plugged the drive into a custom-built server rack built into the teak paneling. The moment he did, the malware activated. The honey file was not a file. It was a search protocol. It began interfacing with every storage device connected to the yacht's internal network, including, we hoped, the real tiller drive. It was not stealing the files. It was just reading the architecture. It was sending a map of Graham's entire digital fortress, every file name, every directory, back to Ruiz's server in the van. Graham stared at the screen, his smile fading. "What is this? This is not the ledger. These are drafts. This is junk data." "It must be the backup," Sierra said, stepping back. "You incompetent!" Graham's voice was rising. He turned, his face darkening with rage. "You brought me drafts?" He hit the intercom on the wall. "Milos, get up here. We have a guest who needs to be removed." That was the signal. Ruiz spoke into her own radio. "Now." A quarter-mile away, the marina's main transformer box sparked, and the entire west end of the harbor, including Pier D, was plunged into absolute darkness. The sudden lack of light was total. The buzzing sodium lamps died. The golden glow from the sea warden vanished. We were in the pitch black, the only light the distant, indifferent glow of the city skyline. "What the hell is this?" Graham roared. "A power cut?" In the chaos, in the sudden confusion, I moved. I knew this boat. I had helped design the layout. I slipped past Graham, into the salon, my hands finding the helm. I was not looking for the engine. I was looking for the captain's log. Graham, like all arrogant men, was analog where it counted. He did not trust digital calendars for his black money. There it was, a heavy, leather-bound book, sitting right by the ship's chronometer. I flipped on my phone's flashlight, shielding the beam with my body. I did not have time to read. I photographed. Page after page of handwritten notes, not names, codes. Beacon payment, 2.5. Harbor transfer, 700 K. Horizon wire, 900. The dates, the amounts. They matched the timeline of my mother's illness. They matched the invoice for Axel Dorn. "Sloane, what are you doing?" A hand grabbed my jacket. It was Sierra. "Danger," she hissed, her voice panicked. "His men are coming up the ramp." She pulled me, hard, toward the gangplank, back into the dark. We stumbled out onto the aft deck, A heavy beam from a flashlight hit us. It was Graham. His face was a mask of pure, unrestrained fury. The mask of the grieving widower, the concerned father, was gone. "You," he snarled at me. "You did this. You little bitch!" He lunged for me. Sierra put herself between us. "Graham, stop! The partners!" He slapped her. It was not a shove. It was a full-force, open-handed strike. The sound of it, a sharp, wet crack, was shockingly loud in the silence. Sierra crumpled to the deck, her cry cut short. For the first time, in front of his crew, his bodyguards were now on the dock. Flashlights trained on us. The mask was gone. "Get them," he ordered. "Federal agents," Ruiz's voice boomed over a loudspeaker from the surveillance van. "Mr. Kincaid, stay where you are." Floodlights from the customs van erupted, illuminating the entire pier, freezing us in a harsh white glare. Graham did not freeze. He scrambled, shoving his own bodyguards out of the way, and ran, not toward the feds, but down the pier, toward the exit. Ruiz's agents, their cover blown, moved to intercept, but they were too late. He was gone, vanishing into the maze of the boatyard. He had escaped. "Let him go," Ruiz yelled. "We have the boat." I helped Sierra to her feet, a dark bloom of a bruise already forming on her cheek. Ruiz's voice came over my encrypted radio. "Sloan, he ran, but the honey file, it worked, while he was escaping. The real tiller drive finished its scan. We have the full file structure. We have the map." "What is on it?" I asked, my heart hammering. "We do not have the files themselves, but we have the names of the files. We have the directory, and Sloan, we have a new file. It was in a hidden partition. It is labeled Dorn RX Swap Move." I stopped breathing. Move, a movie file. "A video," I whispered. "A video of Axel Dorn swapping the medicine trays." "He did not just bribe him," Ruiz said, her voice grim. "He filmed him. He was holding it as insurance. The file is not on the drive. It looks like it was deleted, but the directory name proves it existed. Graham has it, somewhere." Graham was running, and somewhere on his person, or in his head, was the location of the one piece of evidence that could destroy him for good. I looked at the dark water, at the flashing blue and red lights now converging on the marina. Axel Dorn. Graham had an insurance file on him, and that meant Axel was in more danger than any of us. Graham would be hunting him, to destroy the evidence. I knew, in that moment, I had to find him first. I could not get the video from Graham, but I could get it from the man he was blackmailing. I had to find Axel Dorn. We were in the surveillance van, the air stale with the smell of old coffee and adrenaline. Sierra was in the passenger seat, a rapidly darkening bruise blooming on her cheek. Her manicured composure finally shattered, replaced by the raw, twitchy fear of a cornered animal. Her phone buzzed, a harsh vibration on the dashboard. It was not her personal phone. It was the one Graham gave her, the encrypted one. A text message. "He is moving," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "He is panicked. The asset freeze. He must have been notified. He is going to the bank. Mariner's Bluff Trust. Midnight. He said he has to sanitize the assets." Ruiz, in the driver's seat, hit the steering wheel with a closed fist. "That is it, the safe deposit box, the one you were supposed to walk into." Her eyes met mine in the rearview mirror, hard and bright. "My team is 2 blocks from that bank. We move in the second he opens that vault. We have him, Sloan, red-handed." "No." The word was out before I could stop it. "Excuse me?" Ruiz's voice went flat. "This is the bust, Archer. This is what we have been waiting for." "It is the wrong bust," I insisted, my mind racing, seeing the lines of the design, the false walls, the structural traps. "What will you find him with? Cash? Bearer bonds? A fake passport? You will not find the Dorn RX swap file. He is not that stupid. He is expecting a trap. This is the last echo of the trap he and Sierra set for me. You will catch him for felony cash possession. Maybe. But you will lose him on the murder charge, and he will be gone." "So we let him go?" Dana asked from the back, her voice tight with frustration. "Yes," I said. "We let him go. We let him walk into that bank. We let him open his box. We let him take his cash, his passport, and whatever other leverage he has. We let him walk out, clean, thinking he is smarter than us, thinking he just erased the last of his local ties." "And how exactly does that help us?" Ruiz demanded. "Because Kincaid Urban Works designed the security refit for that bank branch 3 years ago," I said. "I was the lead architect on the project." The van went silent. I could feel the shift, the focus drilling into me. "Their standard security system," I explained. "The one that records to a hard drive in the manager's office, it tapes over itself every 24 hours. Graham knows this. He probably has a man on the inside ready to wipe it the second he leaves. He thinks that footage will be gone by morning." "But," Ruiz prompted, catching the turn in my voice. "But," I continued, "the bank's insurance policy was the real problem. The underwriters required a secondary, fully redundant, off-site cloud-based archive for fire and theft liability. It is on a completely separate system. It is a non-erasable, 72-hour rolling backup. Graham does not know about it. The bank manager barely knows about it, but the architect who had to build the firewall for its data port does." A slow, cold smile spread across Ruiz's face. "So we let him destroy the evidence. And tomorrow morning," I finished, "at 9 a.m., you walk into that bank with a federal warrant for the insurance backup footage. You will have crystal clear, high-definition video of Graham Kincaid on the night his assets were frozen, hours after he assaulted a federal witness, using his own key to access a safe deposit box, and whatever he takes out of it, we will have a perfect, undeniable inventory." "Even if it is just cash," Dana breathed. "The optics, accessing millions in cash, it destroys his last shred of credibility." "He will not just take cash," I said, my mind fixed on the tiller drive, on the missing video file. "He is an insurance man. He is paranoid. He will take his leverage. He will take the Dorn file." "It is brilliant," Ruiz said. "A parallel operation. While my team shadows him at the bank, what do? We are still missing Dorn." "We go hunting," I said. "We have to split up." 2 hours later, we were in a different van, this one belonging to Ruiz's tech support unit. Sierra was gone, moved to a protected federal holding cell. It was just me, Ruiz, Dana, and a silent technician named Kenji, who was typing so fast his fingers were a blur. "We have nothing on Dorn," Ruiz said, chewing on a cold piece of nicotine gum. "He is a ghost." "We have the Harbor 24 invoice," I countered. "The one from my mother's envelope. He was not just paid in a lump sum. He was paid through that shell account. A man that paranoid. A man running for his life. He is not using his credit cards. He is using crypto." Kenji spoke for the first time, his voice a quiet monotone. "She is right. The Harbor 24 shell account shows a repeating pattern of micro-withdrawals. Small, regular payments, all routed through a single Bitcoin ATM." "Where?" Ruiz demanded. "A convenience store," Kenji said, not looking up from his screen. "The Harbor 24. The same name as the shell. He is arrogant." "He is not arrogant," I said. "He is compartmentalizing. He is paying for something on a regular basis." "A storage unit," Ruiz concluded. "He is paying for a safe house, a locker." Kenji cross-referenced the ATM's location with every self-storage facility in a 5-mile radius. "Got it. Mariner's Bluff Self-Storage, 2 blocks from the ATM. He is paid up for 3 months. Unit 412. The storage facility was a long, corrugated metal box under a highway, smelling of rust, damp concrete, and mothballs. The silence was absolute. Ruiz picked the heavy padlock on Unit 412 in less than 10 seconds. We slid the metal door up, the sound screaming in the quiet hallway. The unit was almost empty. A single cot, a duffel bag with clothes, a case of bottled water, and in the corner, a small black laptop bag. Ruiz unzipped it. Inside was not a laptop. It was an old beige-colored internet router. It was plugged into a heavy-duty car battery. Wires jury-rigged to the terminals. A single blinking USB drive was plugged into its port. Kenji whistled, a low, impressed sound. This guy is smart. What is it? I asked. It is a dead man's switch, Kenji said, plugging his own tablet into the router's maintenance port, the screen filled with lines of simple code. The router is running a script. It is constantly pinging a private email server. If it fails to receive a hello signal from that server for more than 48 hours, it automatically executes its one command. What command? Dana whispered, her hand moving to her throat. Kenji's face went pale. It uploads the entire contents of that USB drive to an external email address. Subject line, insurance. Graham, I breathed. It is sending the blackmail to Graham. He was insuring his own life, Ruiz said, her voice grim. If Graham tried to silence him, if Dorn disappeared for 48 hours, the video would automatically send to Graham himself, proving that the evidence was now loose, a threat from beyond the grave. The file? I said, pointing to Kenji's screen. Is it there? Kenji navigated the directory. One file, heavily encrypted, Dorn RX swap, move, that is it. That is the video. Copy it, Ruiz ordered. I cannot, Kenji hissed, his voice frantic. The moment I try to copy it, or stop the script, it will register as a failed ping. The 48-hour clock starts. We will have the file, but Axel will be operating blind. He will think his insurance is still in place. Graham will find him and kill him, and we will have no live witness. No, I said. The logic of the trap hitting me. The beautiful, terrible architecture of it. He is wrong. The script does not just send to Graham. It sends to Graham as a threat. Axel's only leverage is controlling the video. He has to be able to stop it. So what do we do, Sloane? Ruiz asked, her eyes fixed on my face. We invert the logic, I said. We do not stop the script. We maintain it. We use your tablet to spoof the server. We send the hello ping right now. We manually simulate the all-safe signal, keeping the 48-hour clock frozen. We make Axel think his switch is still secure, still undiscovered. While, Kenji asked. While, I finished. You clone the entire drive, partition, script, and all. We take the copy, and we leave the original, still plugged in, still running its pathetic little script. We walk away. He will never know we were here. Kenji's fingers flew. Cloning, 90%. Done. He unplugged his tablet. The router in the corner just kept blinking, stupid and steady, guarding an empty secret. We had it. We had the video. We slid the metal door down, the sound echoing in the empty hall. As we walked back to the van, the encrypted radio in my pocket crackled. It was not Ruiz. It was a new signal, garbled and desperate. This is Dorn. Is anyone there? I am using the channel she gave me. Noelle, is she there? Please. It was Axel. He was alive. He was panicked. Ruiz grabbed the radio from my hand. This is Agent Ruiz, Federal Bureau of Investigation. We are with Noelle's associate. We have secured your insurance policy. You are in extreme danger. Mr. Dorn, Graham Kincaid is actively hunting you. I know, he hissed, his voice breaking. I saw them. His private security. They found my apartment. I am trapped. I want out. I want out now. We can help you, Dana cut in, her voice smooth, calm, the negotiator. We need your testimony. Axel, we need you to confirm what is on that video. We need you to come in. I will give you everything, he sobbed. The video, the timeline, the cash payments he made from the Harbor 24 account, everything. Just get me out of the country. Get me a new life. Please. We can arrange extraction, Dana said. But we need to verify. Where are you? The old shipyard, he said, his voice trembling. The container yard, Bay 12. I am in a blue shipping container. Please, hurry. I hear noises. We are on our way, Ruiz said, already spinning the van around, hitting the gas. We raced through the dark industrial district, the van's tires screaming on the wet pavement. The container yard was a dark, silent maze of stacked, rusting metal boxes, a graveyard for commerce. We found Bay 12, a single blue container, identical to 100 others, sitting alone under a flickering sodium light. "Axel!" Ruiz yelled, banging on the metal side. "We are here. Federal agents. Open up." We heard the sound of a heavy internal lock sliding back. The door started to creak open. Ping. It was not a creak. It was a sharp, metallic sound, a ricochet. A perfectly round black hole appeared in the blue metal of the container, 5 inches from Ruiz's head. Ping, ping. A sniper. "Down!" Ruiz screamed, tackling me, shoving me behind a massive concrete barrier. Floodlights from the top of the container stacks erupted, pinning us in a cage of blinding white light. 2 black SUVs, the same kind Graham's security used, screeched into the yard, blocking the only exit. Graham's men, they had not been hunting Axel. They had been waiting for him. They had tracked him here and were waiting for him to break cover, or for us. "Federal agents!" Ruiz screamed, pulling her weapon. "You are under arrest. Drop your weapons." The only answer was a hail of gunfire, bullets sparking off the concrete barrier, shredding the tires of our van. Ruiz was on her radio, screaming for tactical backup, her cover completely blown. All units, shots fired, officer in jeopardy. Mariners Bluff Shipyard, Bay 12, need immediate assistance. The siege had begun. Axel was trapped inside the container, a steel coffin. We were trapped behind the barrier, and Graham's private army was moving in, methodically, to clean up every last loose end. The shootout at the container yard was the match that lit the entire city on fire. It was not a quiet operation. It was a full-scale firefight between a private security force and the FBI. By the time the sun rose, painting the industrial harbor in a sick gray light, the story was on every local news channel. Agent Elena Ruiz, her face grim, her uniform impeccable, stood in front of the Kincaid Urban Works Tower and gave a temporary statement to a frantic mob of reporters. Her words were surgical. She announced the arrest of several private security contractors for the assault on a federal officer. She announced the seizure of Graham Kincaid's personal servers from the Sea Warden and the temporary detainment of a person of interest named Axel Dorn, who was, for his own protection, being held on charges of obstruction of justice. But the real bomb landed 2 hours later. From the federal prosecutor's office, Kenji, the tech, had decrypted the clone of the dead man's switch. The file, Dorn RX Swap, Move, was not just a silent video. It was clear, high definition, and had audio. It showed Axel Dorn, his face sweating under the fluorescent lights of the St. Alaric's pharmacy. It showed him meticulously swapping the plastic trays of medication. But the audio was the killer. It was a phone call, clearly on speakerphone. It was Dorn, his voice trembling. "I am doing it now. Are you sure? Are you sure this is just to make her sick?" And Graham's voice, unmistakable, impatient, and cold. "Stop whining. Axel, it is a simple compound. It will just confuse her system. She will be gone in a week. I'm tired of waiting. Get it done tonight." The link was forged. The bridge was built. While Ruiz and the federal prosecutor were preparing the criminal case, Dana Corbett and I launched the civil one. Dana filed an emergency motion for a permanent order of protection for both me and my mother. Vivian Archer, with the motion, she filed the audio file from the video as proof of a direct, credible threat. She simultaneously filed a formal claim with Graham's insurance carrier, attaching the key person policy. the evidence of his financial duress, and the clause from Section 4B. The 8-figure payout was not just frozen, it was legally nullified. Then, I made my move. I did not go to the Kincaid Tower. I went to the Mariners Bluff courthouse steps, where the media was already camped out. I stood in front of the same cameras that had been hounding Ruiz, and I put the final nail in my father's public coffin. "My name is Sloane Archer," I said, my voice clear and carrying in the cold morning air. "Graham Kincaid is not my father." The explosion of shutter clicks was deafening. "For 32 years, I continued, holding up the certified, notarized copy of my real birth certificate, "this man has systematically hidden my identity and my legal inheritance from me, binding me to his company through fraud. He is not my legal heir. He has no claim to my mother's estate. The inheritance documents he has been circulating, they are fraudulent. Any signature he has obtained is the result of coercion and financial violence against my mother, Vivian Archer, and myself." I did not mention the murder. I did not have to. I had just decoupled his entire financial engine from its fuel source. I had just told his partners, his investors, and the entire city that the 42% of Kincaid Urban Works he was leveraging was, in fact, not his. The boardroom on the penthouse floor was not a meeting. It was a war room. The emergency shareholders meeting was called by noon. The board members, men and women I had known my entire life, people who had come to our house for Christmas, looked at me as if I were a ghost. Their faces were pale, their expressions a mixture of terror and disbelief. "This is a circus," the CFO, a man named Marcus, blustered. "A private family matter." "This stopped being a family matter," I said, "when Mr. Kincaid began using corporate funds to launder money through shell companies." I clicked the remote. The wall-sized monitor behind me lit up, but it was not a financial spreadsheet. It was my architectural deck. "This," I said, "is the Harbor Pier Revive project." I showed them my original design: public parks, mixed-use housing, a revitalized waterfront. "And this," I clicked again, "is the project as built." The screen filled with red lines, showing the flow of money. These shadow companies, Horizon Key and Beacon Isle Partners, were paid over $80 million for geotechnical consulting and marine engineering. As the lead architect, I can tell you, their work was never performed. This $80 million, it just vanished, pulled from the project's core budget, funneled offshore, and leaving us with a project that is structurally underfunded and 2 years behind schedule. "Those are baseless accusations," Marcus shouted. "Are they?" A new voice cut through the tension. Sierra Knox walked into the room. She was not dressed in her usual power suit. She was in a simple black dress, her face bruised, and she was flanked by 2 federal marshals. "I have already provided a signed, sworn affidavit to the U.S. Attorney's Office," Sierra said, her voice clear and carrying. She placed a copy on the polished table. "It details every wire transfer I made on Mr. Kincaid's orders. It details the dark room in his condo where he keeps the physical tiller hard drives. It lists the dates, times, and attendees of his meetings with the representatives from Malta. He was not just stealing from the company, he was using it as a personal bank for his foreign partners." The door to the boardroom burst open. Graham Kincaid stood there. He was impeccably dressed, his hair perfect, but his eyes were wild, bloodshot. He looked like a cornered animal. "This is a coup," he yelled, pointing at me. "A pathetic, hysterical coup orchestrated by a vindictive child and a failed assistant." He smiled, a terrible, false smile, turning his charm on the board members. "Gentlemen, ladies, this is a family tragedy. My wife, bless her, was a weak woman, easily manipulated, and my daughter is clearly suffering a breakdown. This is slander, and it will be met with the most aggressive legal action." "Will it, Mr. Kincaid?" Agent Ruiz was standing in the doorway Sierra had just come through. Graham's face went white. He had not known she was here. "You are not welcome here, Agent," he snarled. "This is a private corporate matter." It became a federal matter, Ruiz said, walking calmly to the front of the room, when you began laundering money for a Maltese syndicate, and it became a federal matter when you ordered your private army to open fire on my agents. She plugged a drive into the monitor, replacing my architectural deck. A new image appeared. It was a complex, devastatingly simple graph, a flowchart. This is your money, Mr. Kincaid. This is the $80 million from the Harbor Pier project, flowing into Horizon Key, then to Beacon Isle, then to the Maltese Trust, and then, from Malta, back into your own personal accounts in Belize. The board was silent. The air had been sucked from the room. "It is a lie," Graham whispered, his voice shaking. "Fabricated. You have no proof. You have nothing but the words of a scorned woman," he spat, gesturing at Sierra. "We have more than her word, sir," Ruiz said, her voice dangerously quiet. "We have a problem. The bank, Mariners Bluff Trust. We had a technical problem with the security footage from last night. It was erased from the main server." Graham's posture relaxed. A small, cruel smile touched his lips. "Well, that is unfortunate for you, Agent. But," Ruiz continued, "the insurance backup was perfectly intact." She clicked the remote. The screen lit up with the crisp, black and white, high-definition footage from the bank vault. It showed Graham Kincaid, his face clear, opening safe deposit box 415. It showed him pulling out stacks of cash, 2 passports, and a small, padded, cream-colored envelope. The camera zoomed in. "That envelope," Ruiz's voice narrated, "was tested by our forensics team this morning after we retrieved it from your home, where you foolishly left it behind in your panic. It contained a chalky residue, a compound, the same compound used in the placebo pills given to your wife. The lot numbers, Mr. Kincaid, were a perfect match. You kept a souvenir." It was the final, killing blow. A man at the end of the table, the primary investor from the Mariners Quayside Fund, stood up. His voice was trembling with pure, cold rage. "Mr. Kincaid, the Quayside Fund hereby retracts its proxy support from your leadership, effective immediately. We demand your resignation, now." You. Graham turned, his eyes wild, looking for an ally. He found none. He looked at me, his face collapsing from arrogance into a mask of pure, ugly hate. "You did this!" he screamed, his voice cracking. The performance gone, the animal exposed. "You ungrateful leech! After everything I gave you, your mother was always weak, always holding me back, and you are just like her, weak." The cameras, the ones from the news stations still in the lobby who had pushed their way in, captured it all. The meltdown, the confession, the raw, unfiltered truth. The fallout was instantaneous. The Mariners Bluff City Council Ethics Board, seeing the footage, convened an emergency session and voted to propose a permanent ban on Kincaid Urban Works from all future public bids. The Quayside Fund, and every other related stock, went into freefall. He was not just arrested, he was erased. He tried to run. He did not even take the elevator. He ran for the fire stairs. He must have thought he could get to his car, the one in his private garage bay. He must have thought he could still make it to the sea warden, still make it to open water. He burst through the door into the concrete echo of the parking garage, and stopped. Ruiz was there, leaning against the fender of his Bentley. 2 tactical agents were with her. The exit ramp was blocked by a federal SUV. He was trapped. "Graham Kincaid," Ruiz said, her voice devoid of all emotion. "You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, racketeering, money laundering, and assault on a federal officer." She pushed him against the cold concrete wall, pulled his arms behind his back. The sharp click-click of the handcuffs was the only sound in the garage. As she read him his rights, he turned his head, his eyes finding mine. I had followed him down. I had to see the end. "Sloan," he pleaded, his voice a broken, pathetic whisper. "Please, I am still your father. I am still your father." I looked at him, at the man who had stolen my name, my inheritance, and tried to steal my mother's life. I looked at the hollow shell of arrogance and greed. "You were never my compass," I said. I turned and walked back into the light, leaving him in the dark. The night before his detention hearing, Graham Kincaid requested a meeting, not with his lawyers, but with me. The request was absurd, arrogant, and entirely predictable. I agreed. The room they put us in was not the dark, cinematic interrogation room of movies. It was a standard federal processing room, beige walls, linoleum floors, and a suffocating, cold fluorescent light overhead that hummed just loud enough to get under the skin. Dana Corbett and Agent Ruiz were in the observation room, watching through one-way glass. I was alone at the cheap metal table. He was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, his wrists cuffed. The change was shocking. The tailored suits, the expensive cologne, the sheer physical presence he used to command a room. All of it was gone. He was just a man, diminished, pale, and smelling of institutional soap. He sat opposite me, his chains rattling, a heavy, desperate sound in the small room. He tried to muster the old charm, the paternal baritone. "Sloane, thank you for coming. This is all a misunderstanding. A terrible, terrible misunderstanding." I said nothing. I just watched him. I had practiced this. I would be the architect. I would observe the foundation, the flaws, the inevitable collapse. I would not give him the gift of my anger. These men. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspirator's whisper. The Maltese partners. They are not reasonable people. Sloane, they are the ones who are really at fault here. They pressured me. They forced my hand. He was already building his new narrative. He was the victim. "I can give them to Ruiz," he offered. The deal laid bare. Horizon Key, Beacon Isle, the real names, the offshore accounts I did not keep on the boat. Everything. I can give her a case that will make her career. He waited. I just stared. My silence was a wall he could not find a foothold on. It was maddening him. "In exchange," he pushed, You just have to tell them the truth. Tell them you were confused, grieving. Tell them your mother was unstable, that she pressured you into this. You drop the civil suit. You recant the testimony about the trust fund. It is a civil matter. They will have to drop the criminal charges. We can fix this. Sloane, you and I." I looked at him, at this man who had tried to murder my mother and was now offering to trade his partners to save his own skin, asking me to sacrifice my mother's sanity for his freedom. He still believed, even now, that everyone had a price, that I had a price. The door behind him opened. Graham did not look up, annoyed by the interruption. "We need a minute," he snapped at the guard. "She is not a guard. Graham." My voice. The first words I had spoken. They sounded strange and cold in the sterile room. He turned. Vivian Archer walked in. She was not the pale, terrified woman from the SUV in the cemetery. She was not the frail patient in the hospital bed. She was wearing her own clothes, dark wool trousers, a cashmere turtleneck. Her hair was clean. Her eyes were clear. She was on a new, correct medication protocol, and the life, the force, was back in her face. Her heart was beating steadily, strongly, a rhythm he had failed to stop. Graham's face collapsed, not in shock, not in guilt, in pure, unadulterated failure. He was looking at the physical evidence of his greatest mistake. "Vivian," he whispered, a sound of disbelief. My mother did not cry. She did not yell. She walked to the table with a steady, measured pace. She reached into her bag and pulled out a single object, sliding it across the metal table until it stopped directly in front of his cuffed hands. It was the old family photograph, the one from the sea warden, the one that had hidden his safe. The three of us, tanned, smiling, a perfect, sun-bleached lie. Graham stared at it, at the life he had used as camouflage. "You chose power over us," Vivian said. Her voice was not loud, but it cut through the hum of the fluorescent light, filled the entire room. "And you lost both." She turned, walked out of the room, and did not look back. The rest of it was just architecture. It was the demolition phase. In the room next door, Sierra Knox was signing her final confession. In exchange for Dana's petition for leniency, a deal that would likely see her serve 3 to 5 years for the money laundering instead of 20, she gave them the last key, the password for the tiller drive, the physical one seized from Graham's condo. It was, like everything else, a monument to his arrogance. TLER starboard 07. The exclamation point was his little flourish. With that password, Ruiz unlocked the undeleted, unencrypted ledgers, the full, catastrophic scope of the operation, hundreds of millions of dollars, was laid bare. Across town, in another federal building, Axel Dorn was doing the same. He was terrified, broken, and desperate to save himself. He sat with his public defender and sang. He confirmed Graham's voice on the video. He confirmed the order was to kill, not to incapacitate, and he provided the final, physical link. He had kept the handwritten receipts for the cash payments Graham had made, the ones from the Harbor 24 slush fund, the serial numbers on the cash deliveries, meticulously noted by Dorn, were a perfect match for the withdrawal notes in Graham's own handwritten captain's log from the Sea Warden. The noose was not just tight, it was welded shut. Agent Ruiz finalized the indictment. It was not just one charge. It was a cascade. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder in the first degree, wire fraud, mail fraud, racketeering, conspiracy to launder monetary instruments, assault on a federal officer. The list was pages long. The grand jury indicted him on every single count in under an hour. The case would never go to trial. When we left the federal building, the sun was setting. The storm that had raged over Mariner's Bluff for the last week had finally broken. The air was cold, clean, and sharp. The sky was a deep, bruised purple, fading to clear, pale blue at the horizon. Vivian and I did not speak. We just walked, our footsteps echoing on the wet pavement. We walked toward the bluff, toward the water. The town seemed to be holding its breath around us, the chaos of the news cycles and the arrests settling into a stunned, quiet reality. We stood on the cliff path, not far from the cemetery, but this time, we were looking out at the ocean. The wind was gone. The only sound was the steady, rhythmic rush of the waves on the seawall below, a sound of permanence, a sound of cleansing. The ocean was just washing the stones. We went back to the lighthouse atelier, my mother's space, my real home. She walked to her workbench, the one covered in pigments and oils. She picked up a small, dark wooden box. It was old, polished smooth by time. "This was Rowan's," she said softly. Your father's. She had kept it for me, for 32 years. She had kept it safe from Graham. I took the box from her. It was simple, heavy, made of teak. I opened the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded blue velvet, was not a sculpture. It was a compass, a heavy, beautiful, brass navigation compass. It was not new. It was worn, used, practical. I picked it up. It felt warm in my hand, balanced. And etched into the brass lid, in a simple, strong script, were 3 words: "Find true north." I looked at my mother, her eyes watching me, and I finally understood. My entire life had been defined by a false coordinate, by Graham Kincaid, by his ambition, his needs, his lies, his approval. I had been sailing by a false light. The Kincaid Urban Works name was toxic, shattered. The board, in a desperate attempt to save the company, had offered me Graham's seat. They had offered me the 42%, plus his own holdings, giving me majority control. They wanted me to rebuild. I held the compass. I knew what I had to do. I would not be rebuilding his empire. I would be building something new. I decided, in that moment, to liquidate the majority of the assets. I would keep only the part of the company I had built with my own hands, the design studio, The architectural team, I would rename it True North Atelier. We would not build monuments to greed. We would not build glass towers that blocked the sun. We would take the money that had been stolen from the city, and we would use it to fund the projects I had actually designed. The public parks, the revitalized waterfront, the community spaces on the old, abandoned piers. It was not revenge, it was restoration. It was not about tearing him down. It was about building the truth. My mother put her hand on my shoulder. We stood there, the smell of linseed oil and the sea filling the room. I picked up my phone, the one he had bugged, the one I kept in a drawer. I powered it on. The battery was almost dead. I looked at my mother's old contact. Mom, the number that had sent the impossible text, the number that had started it all. I typed one last message to it, a signal sent to a ghost. Signal received. I choose my true north. The final scene closes on the harbor, not the private, guarded breakwater marina, but the old, public city pier. The sodium lights, one by one, are shutting off. The work lights of the new atelier, my lights, are clicking on. The water below is perfectly still, a flat, dark sheet of glass, reflecting the clear, starry sky above. The rain is gone. There is nothing left to hide. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I am so curious to know where in the world you are listening from. So please comment below and let us share our thoughts. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to Lila Revenge Stories, like this video, and give it an extra boost by hitting the hype button so more people can hear it.